So the goal of the build with this particular 2022 Tundra TRD Pro is pretty much all for looks. Almost everything we've done here is cosmetic. The first thing we did was a Westcott Designs collar style lift. This lift kit is an on-shock collar lift that adds preload to your coilovers in the front to give you about 2.5 inches, and in the rear there's blocks. Now, the reason we chose this lift kit is because there's not a ton of aftermarket support for this 3rd gen Tundra yet. We typically don't do block style lifts at Mountain Yotas, but this was the only option really to get some height on this vehicle to fit these 35-inch tires. In the rear end, the Westcott kit is simply a spacer. The big difference between this truck and the 2nd gen Tundra is that the rear end no longer has leaf springs. They made this a 4-link in the rear, which provides you with more articulation than a leaf spring, and a lot of people would argue that it is a better ride quality. So aftermarket support is the biggest struggle with building these right now. There are a few things out there though. King shocks are available, but you're gonna wait probably 8 to 12 months. Icon has a full kit with billet uppers and billet trailing arms, but my favorite thing out is Baja Kit's +3 front end long travel setup with their billet trailing arms. That's kind of where this build should be if we're gonna go all the way to the next level. One thing you have to keep in mind when you're gonna choose a lift kit like a preload collar or blocks, it's not adding any performance whatsoever. The ride quality will be worse no matter what because you're just adding compression to your coils to get the lift. The only performance addition that this will provide is the ability to fit a larger tire to get more ground clearance. If you don't have the Fox shocks that come on the TRD Pro or the highest trim levels, it's going to ride stiff. This is the best collar lift that's available by far. I wouldn't use anything besides Westcott Designs, but just to set your expectations, this is not a performance enhancement. It will not ride as good as stock. It'll be stiff. I think the interior in general looks really good. The Toyota emblem on the passenger side in the dash is awesome. The seats are awesome. They're heated and cooled seats. The heaters work great. The AC in the seats works really well too. The mirror that they upgraded on these Tundras is really cool too. It's actually a video live feed from the back, but you can flip it so that it is a traditional mirror as well. If you want to look at what's in your truck bed, make sure something's not flying out. Wheels and tires are always a great consideration when building out a truck. These are 35-inch Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. They do have a snow rating. They're siped, fantastic all-around tire, especially in Colorado, and Black Rhino Prim wheels. With this lift kit or any 2.5-inch lift kit on the 2022 Tundra, you can fit 37-inch tires with some trimming. You have to trim out the front and you have to push the rear back and do a cab mount chop. If you just go to 35s like this, some trimming is required in certain cases, but this one's really not rubbing unless you're in full lock in reverse. A great thing about this vehicle, it started off with like the 2021 Pro Tacomas. Cameras all around this 3rd gen Tundra. When you're under 5 miles per hour, you can set a custom screen so it automatically comes on and you can see the sides, you can see, like a drone view of all around the truck. Our favorite roof racks at Mountain Yotas are Sherpa Equipment Company's roof racks. This is the brand new Grizzly. What we love about Sherpa is the strength and styling, and it just makes a lot more sense than any other roof rack because it's not metal on metal. Where the rack meets the cab is rubber, which eliminates the need to use silicone when you install this rack, and it just holds up better with less noise. The side plates are also a lot thicker than any other rack on the market, and they're made right here in Colorado. As far as the drivability goes, my favorite thing is the upgrade to the adaptive cruise control and steering assist. The adaptive cruise actually will come to a complete stop on this update. Before, it would disengage and give you a big warning and start beeping when you were at, I believe, 32 miles an hour. And now it actually comes to a complete stop and it will start going again as long as you're not stopped for more than a certain amount of time. If you are stopped like in a traffic jam, it will require you to hit the gas pedal to engage the cruise control again and start rolling. But the update really just makes a lot more sense. The steering assist got a huge upgrade as well. My 21 Tacoma has lane departure warnings, but this actually bumps you back into your lane. It pretty much steers for you on the highway. It will give you a warning if your hand's not on the wheel, and it will disengage if it feels like you're not holding the wheel or doing enough steering and actively driving with it. But the steering assist works really well. Another cool thing on the interior of this 3rd Gen Tundra is the dial that's down by your right hand. It has 4 buttons: drive mode, tow haul, crawl control, and MTS, which is multi-terrain select. When you have the button drive mode engaged, it has 3 settings. Starts off in eco mode to get good gas mileage. You obviously have less power. And then normal, which is what you would expect a normal full-size truck to drive like. And then you have sport mode. Sport mode is what I've chosen to drive around in pretty much all the time. There is a significant difference between eco mode and sport mode, jumping all the way up. The acceleration in sport mode is really great. The pedal's really responsive. It gets up and goes really fast. There is a 10-speed transmission in this, so it's extremely smooth throughout the entire acceleration process, and it's really just a joy to drive. One of the most luxurious things about this truck is the heated steering wheel. It sounds kind of gimmicky, but I'll tell you what, when it is under 32 degrees, it's such a nice thing to have. Warm hands. Pair that up with the heated seats or AC seats, it really does make for a luxurious addition in the 3rd Gen Tundra. The graphics on this truck were done by Pureblind. The artist Nick Hughes did something really cool. This digital camo pattern that's in the seats and on the fender flares was thrown into these custom stripes. That's kind of a heritage throwback to Toyota's Land Cruiser stripes that they used to do out of the factory. Toyota says the EPA estimated mileage on these trucks is like 22 miles per gallon, but it's not even close. Even when this was still on stock suspension and tires, it was getting at most 14 miles per gallon in eco or normal mode. And right now with the 35s on it, I'm averaging 13.2 miles per gallon. So here's something about the drivability of this truck. The absolute worst thing about this truck, honestly, is the turning radius. And I've driven a lot of big trucks. It has the worst turning radius, even stock. Right here I had plenty of room to turn around. I'm gonna have to run into a curb just to turn around. Engineers at Toyota, fix the turning radius on the Tundras, would you? It can't be that hard. So there are a couple of things I don't like about the interior of this truck. The first one is the most obvious, and it's design related. The whole headliner, basically from the windows up, is like this tan color, and it's completely out of place. They absolutely should have done a black headliner. The other thing that, you know, kind of bugs me about the interior of this Tundra is the screen. It is a 14-inch screen, which is awesome. It's huge, but it's straight. It needs to be tilted towards the driver a little bit. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see. You do have to reach really far to one edge. It needs to be oriented towards the driver more. Another thing about the interior specifically, obviously it's super spacious. It's really, really comfortable in here. The panoramic sunroof is killer. The first time you open it up, when you get your truck, it's just striking. The whole thing opens up. The visibility is awesome. And then the first half of it opens completely with the glass too. I love that element of this truck. The other cool thing about the glass is that the entire rear window rolls down, just like on the 2nd Gen Tundras and on the 4Runners that they started in 2002, I believe. Having that window roll down all the way in the back is really cool. The TRD Pro and Capstone trim levels both come standard with the iForce Max twin turbo hybrid motor that produces 437 horsepower and 583 foot-pounds of torque. If you choose a trim level beneath the TRD Pro, then you're still gonna have an iForce twin turbo. It's just not the Max Hybrid Edition, and that motor produces 389 horsepower with 439 foot-pounds of torque. I placed a deposit on this Tundra the first day that Toyota allowed you to place deposits, waited for 10 months on the delivery, and paid $69,000 plus tax out the door, and it was worth every day I waited and every dollar I spent. Toyota really solved every issue that anyone's really had with all of their trucks in the past. It has plenty of power, the styling's fantastic, all of the tech that's brought into this truck just makes a lot of sense. There's a couple of nuances that I would change, but overall, this is absolutely my favorite Toyota truck that they've ever dropped. That wraps up this portion of the build, but we have a ton of exciting stuff coming up, so subscribe to check it out, and thank you so much for tuning in. Peace.